Alright, before we go into exploring constraints and that whole world, let's actually cover real quick how we might be able to see some control geometry for our rig poses. So similar to our joint system here, where we have names for our joints, we need names for geometry that we can hook up into our points. So let's start by just making any geometry. I'm going to just start with a circle, as we can see here. I'm going to turn it into a NURBS curve, or even just a primitive. I'm going to close, or even still keep a polygon rather. I don't care. We're going to keep it, we're going to turn it open, so it's like similar to a NURBS curve that we would create, or a NURBS control that we would create in Maya. And we can put it flat with the ground, so we could put it on our, could just give it a rotation real quick of -90. So it's flat with the XZ plane. Then we're going to give it a name, and we'll just call it example control. And now we can hook it up using a geometry or a control. Oh, I've forgotten what it's called. Let's see real quick. It is a attach joint geo. There we go. My bad there. So we can input our target skeleton, and we want to do this before our rig poses. So we can just plop it in right there. It'll automatically hook up our target geometry, and we can hook in our geometry here into this shape library. Now if you have multiple different shapes that you want with multiple different names, you can simply use a merge node, combine them all together, and then hook them up here, so long as you just have their name determined before your merge. And even if you have like if you have a sphere and then a copy node for some reason to just create a lot of spheres, however you want to as such, and this is where you want to merge in your control, then this shape now becomes your control, and you want to give it a name. So you can build any geometry that you want to and create controls out of it. We can even use the rubber toy if we want to, so long as we just give it a name. And we can start using it as a control geometry. As we can see here, if we add a assignment here, and we select one of our joints that we want to assign to, we'll just select the tip. We can now see our shapes that we can choose from, our example control or our rubber toy. So if we use a rubber toy, it'll just put it right on top of that joint, and anytime we select our rubber toy on our rig poses in the future, we're now controlling the joint as with a giant rubber toy. Kind of ridiculous, yes, but if we use something more manageable, something more reasonable, like the example control that we built earlier, then we can select it way out here, and when we have our bone deform selected, we don't need to go in and click on the joint itself. We can select these controls and then start to control it from there. We can even give our controls colors if you desire. So I'll do so here, just with a color node. I'll put it down before the name, since the name is what determines our shape that we're using as a control. And we can color it to green or whatever we want to, and we'll see that change in our rig pose nodes. We'll be exploring more of this control setup and the rig pose as we create our character rig. The rig pose has a lot to it that can allow us to hide geometry and other aspects so that we can hide controls from certain chains or certain joints. And we'll explore that as we set it up with our character. For now though, this is just a nice introduction to the concept of control geometry.